Hi, so in this video we'll be looking at measure of center and measure of spread, and also what a box plot is and the features of a box plot. So we'll start off by looking at the measure of center. Okay, the measure of center is done in three different ways. We've got the mean, we've got the median, and we've got the mode. Okay, so the mean is averaging out the values. So we add all the values together. So you add all values and you divide it by the total number of values that are there. And I'll show you an example of this very soon. So you take the sum of all the values and you divide it by the total number of values. The median is just the middle number, okay? The middle value. So what is the dead center? That's your median. All right. And the mode is the most repeated number. In a data set. All right. So we'll actually go through an example and I'll show you how to calculate this so you get a better understanding of how it actually works. So I've got a set of numbers above. So 1, 3, 2, 7, 9, 3, 4, 4, 6, 9, 8, 7, 3, 2, 5. And I've actually reordered them properly. So it's 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 8, 9, 9. And how this works is, what we do is we'll actually go and calculate all these three measures of center. So let's do the mean first. So what I do is I'm going to add all those numbers together. So you've got 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 9. Okay, I recommend you pause the video and actually do go through this step after I've just explained it, so you can make sure that my calculation is correct. If not, then you can tell me off for that later on. All right, so that equals 73. All right, and the total number we have is 15. And again, I recommend pause this video, do this problem to make sure you are doing it correctly, and you can figure it out yourself as well. So I want to take my calculator out and go, well, 73 divided by 15, and we get 4.866 reoccurring. I'm just going to round it up to 4.9. Okay, so the mean equals 4.9. All right, now let's look at the median. So for the median, we're going to take the middle value. So if I've got 15 numbers, okay, it's an odd number, that means there'll be one value that'll be left out. So I can't divide this by 2. So if you think about it, if I divide 16 by 2, I get 8. And if I divide 14 by 2, I get 7. So therefore, I've got one extra number. So 14 divided by 2 is 7. I've got one extra number. That means the 8th value should be my middle value. So why don't we go from one end, count 7, and from the other end, count 7 and see what's left. All right? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we'll stop there. Let's go the other end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so I see this 4 in the middle over here is left out. So that is my median. All right, so my median equals 4. And the mode is the most repeated number. All right, so the most repeated number in this situation, let's have a look at it. So we've got 1, which is repeated once. 2 is repeated twice. We've got 3 repeated 3 times. 4 is repeated twice. 5 is once. 6 is once. 7 is twice. 8 is once. And 9 is twice. So obviously, we look at it and go, well, 3 is repeated 3 times. Therefore, my mode equals 3. And this is how we go and measure the center. Okay, using these 3 different approaches. So now let's go down and have a look at a box plot. And what is a box plot all about? All right, most of you guys would have seen a box and whisker graph, but if you haven't, this is used for univariate data, all right, or multivariate data. You can do it for one analysis. So if you're comparing something, or if you're not, So a good example would be if I was using this for weights in a classroom. Okay, I can plot all the data points on a straight line graph, on a dot plot. So I'll make a dot plot and I'll draw a box and whisker plot above that dot plot or over that dot plot. Okay, so if I had a set of dots down the bottom, so boom, 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 boom. Okay, this is going to be very bad. Okay, so if I had a set of dots, okay, and I draw a box and whisker plot. So that's what a box and whisker plot is actually used for. Alright, so I'll get rid of these dots so it doesn't look too bad. Alright, so what is a box and whisker plot all about? So in the box and whisker plot, we have a set of values that mean something. Alright, and we'll start and I'll explain what these values mean. So obviously, right in the center over here, we've got our minimum, which is the lowest most value of that data set. On the other end, we've got our maximum, which is the highest value of our data set. And right in the middle, that line in the middle, is our median. Alright, so center value. So in box and whisker plots, we use medians. That's the measure of center we use. We don't use the mean as a measure when you're looking at the graph. You look at the median. Alright, and then over here on the end of the box, we've got our lower quartile. And on the other end, we've got our upper quartile. Alright, so the box and whisker graph has these 5 particular values or features that we must know about. Okay, and I'll talk about what they actually represent. So in the box and whisker plot, from the minimum to the maximum, that is 100% of our data. Okay, so all our data is in this box and whisker plot. Okay, every single data point that we've collected or we're analyzing is in this box plot. Right, so that's 100% of our data. So between the minimum to the lower quartile, from the minimum to the lower quartile, that line represents 25% of our data. From the lower quartile to the median, that represents another 25% of our data. From the median to the upper quartile, that represents another 25% of our data. I'll actually put these inside the boxes. So this is 25% in here and 25% in there. And here's from the upper quartile to the maximum, that's another 25% of our data. Okay, so if you're ever asked, where does 70% of the data lie from the minimum? Okay, it's from the minimum to the upper quartile, that's where 75% of the data lies. Okay, or how much of the data lies above the lower quartile? So from the lower quartile up to the maximum, that's 75% of the data. Or how much of the data lies between the lower quartile and the upper quartile? That is 50% of the data. Alright? Cool. So that's how we look at these graphs. There's 2 more things you need to understand about a box and whisker plot. That is the range and the interquartile range. Interquartile range. So the range is just the range of values the data is spread over. So it's just known as the maximum minus the minimum. Okay, how far is the data spread over the whole data set? The interquartile range is the upper quartile minus the lower quartile. So it's only looking at the middle 50%. Alright? Because in the middle 50%, this is where most of our data would lie. Okay, they're all quite clustered. Okay, our average is in between the lower quartile and the middle and upper quartile. Alright, so most of the data is in there, even though it's all 25, 25, 25. We've got 50% of the data in that set, in that middle. Right? And that's the one we want to look at the most. Because for a lot of people, probably in that range. Alright? That's our middle 50%. Okay, and these 2 we use to measure spread of data. Alright, the range and the interquartile range. Okay, we use this to measure the spread. How far spread is our data set. And that is what you would need in statistics to analyze a data set for multivariate or box plots.